Good evening. I'm happy to welcome all of my fellow board members and call the April 27th, 2021 school board meeting to order. Pam, roll call, please.
Mrs. Belford?
Present.
Ms. McDougall?
Present.
Mrs. Jenkins?
Present.
Mrs. Campbell?
Present.
And Mr. Susin?
Present.
Please be reminded that school board meetings will be held in a manner consistent with other district meetings and activities. All attendees must wear a face mask covering the nose and mouth at all times when not more than 6 feet from the nearest person. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated. We will now hold a moment of silent reflection and invite the viewing audience to join us. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to offer my fellow board members and Dr. Mullins the opportunity to recognize students, staff, or members of the community who'd like to get us started this evening. Ms. Campbell.
Always happy to go first. All right. First of all, I am really excited about the Summer Fine Arts Theater Workshop that's going to be going this summer. I think the deadline was yesterday to sign up, but really excited for our students to be doing Big Fish and also Singing in the Rain this summer, North and South. On, let's see, a week ago, Wednesday, I had the great privilege of working with Linda Buffin from Professional Development to do the Teacher Leadership Academy. And I know that she said that she rotates. Usually different board members do that every year, but I will tell you I had so much fun. I volunteered to do it every year, if y'all will let me, because it was a great time working with some of our teachers who are developing their leadership skills, and we'll head into all different kinds of opportunities in the future, just to talk about really the role of the board. So I just wanted to thank Linda Buffum for organizing that and for leading that group through the school year. It was a great group, and I appreciated all of their great questions as well. On Saturday, Dr. Mullins and I think Dr. Soliven was in the North End, got to attend the All-County Orchestra middle school and high school concerts. I was down at the South End, and it was just a fantastic day. And so I really appreciate, first of all, Minnie Orr, our music resource teacher, also our host schools, Heritage High School and Cocoa Beach Junior Senior High School, and all our strings and orchestra teachers for the great job they did. And just to point out, usually when they have those all-county concerts, it's the preparations are usually Thursday night, sometime a few weeks before, and then the Thursday night, 2 nights before. Then they do an all-day Friday event, and then they practice all day Saturday, and they do the concert that evening. The middle school orchestra had 4.5 hours on Saturday, and they sounded fabulous. And the high school orchestra had 6 hours of rehearsal, and again, sounded just fabulous. So I was so excited for the opportunity, and kudos to all our students. Also in the program was recognized our all-county band members. They weren't able to have a concert this year, but they were recognized, and definitely appreciate all of our band students and their band directors for putting forth the effort to do that virtual audition, and was excited to have them recognized in the program as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Who's next? Ms. Jenkins?
Sure. I had decided for the rest of this school year, whatever window of time I had available, I've been dedicating to our classroom teachers at each one of my elementary schools. And so this past 2 weeks, I was able to visit Gemini Elementary. I was able to participate in Miss Litchfield's 3rd grade classroom, which was really a fun experience for me. I got to do some data tracking with the students and some goal setting with them, and got to experience a little bit of that e-learning complication, I would like to call it. And a special shout out to Tommy, who taught me how to use the breakout rooms effectively. It was just a really great experience. I also got to spend time in their kindergarten classroom with Ms. Hickenlooper, and that was super, super fun. And I was able to do some small groups and give her some time to really work on her whole class and focus on her kiddos. And today I went to Indy Atlantic Elementary. I was supposed to help with some verbatim reading for some of their iReady testing, but we had some technical difficulties this morning across the district. It allowed me to enter one of our first grade classrooms. I had an amazing time there. Those kiddos were super bright, super excited to show off what the teacher called bragging about their brains, told me all the stuff that they've been learning all year round. And then I got to spend some time in the media center, helping out the media specialist and kind of doing the job of what a media assistant would be doing alongside of her. So thank you to Indian Atlantic and Gemini, and I look forward to seeing the rest of my elementary schools before the end of the school year.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Ms. McDougall?
I just have a couple. I want to give a big shout out to principal at Apollo. And I went on the day when it was torrential rain, and I felt I needed a boat because all the streets there in Titusville flooded. It was unbelievable to me. But a shout out to Principal O'Leary for his ability and his willingness and his kindness to help one of my school principals in my district. And a big shout out to Principal O'Leary. The last thing I have is a shout out to the seniors at Edgewood Junior Senior High. I was lucky enough to be one of the evaluators on some of their senior projects for their presentations. And can I tell you that these students are absolutely amazing, as I'm sure most of our students are across the district, but the senior projects they put together and how hard they worked and how polished they were was absolutely amazing. So a shout out to our seniors and their senior projects at Edgewood Junior Senior High. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall, and thank you for recognizing Principal O'Leary. I'm sorry I left you to run solo on the deluge day, but I do appreciate you taking the time to reach out to him and thank him. Mr. Susin,
I'm good.
are you sure?
Yep.
Does that mean you're going to take like an hour later?
Absolutely.
Dr. Mullins?
Thank you, Ms. Belford. I want to, as the board knows, and I'm sure the community is aware, I believe it was early January, we had the privilege of raising the first POW MIA flag out front of ESF. And over the last several weeks since then, the Rolling Thunder Florida Chapter 1 has gone to all but 3 of our schools and presented them with the flag and participated in a flag raising at the school, which has included several extensions of the school community, our students, our safety patrols, bands, ROTCs, teachers have all participated in that ceremony of raising the flag. The 3 schools that are left are on the schedule, just haven't gotten there yet: Jackson Middle, Pinewood Elementary, and Mims Elementary. So they will be making their way to those schools in the coming days and weeks. And all of our schools, all 84 or 90 of our schools, will have a flag provided by Rolling Thunder for their school to raise along with the American flag. And just so proud of the partnership that we have with our veterans and recognizing the men and women who may have fallen or may be imprisoned to protect our freedoms. So huge shout out to 2 of our resource teachers, our content specialists, Kim Garten and Christina Utlinger. I know the board met them. They were both at the ceremony we had here. They have been absolutely instrumental in planning, coordinating, scheduling, facilitating this entire process. So imagine basically a field trip to every one of our schools by community members over the last several weeks, and that's on top of their other duties. And they've done it with such grace, professionalism, and just true joy that they have brought to it. So Kim, Christina, if you're watching, thank you for your devotion and dedication to your work and to taking care of our schools and our kids and giving them this opportunity. And the last shout out I'd like to do is another behind the scenes person. We received an emergency order from the Florida Department of Education in very unexpected fashion and with some very aggressive turnaround timelines to meet the needs of our students who had taken and or would be taking end of course exams. Melody Stevens is one of our, we acknowledged our ET department. Well, she's behind the scenes, I don't know, in one of the back areas with ET, but She so graciously rose to the occasion. She evaluated all of our kids who had taken EOCs. The DOE switched the rules on us. Not a bad thing, but very short term. And Melody, as she always does, so thoroughly went through and looked at every single student and made the appropriate adjustments, because they changed the rules on the EOC. If it benefits the student, they get to keep the credit. If not, we got to change it in the grading system. I don't know how it all works, but it took a lot of effort. And known Melody for years as a devoted Brevard Public Schools team member. So Melody, if you're out there, or Mr. Cheatham, I know you will pass along our great appreciation for Melody and her devotion to her work and taking care of our kids as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. Yes, Ms. McDougall?
You're going to talk about this?
Go right ahead.
I'm sorry, I have one more thing.
You want me to model it for you?
Yes,
while
sir.
you-
So I want to mention this now because we won't have a meeting before May 7th, which is to honor our lunchroom, cafeteria, food services staff, who are superheroes, who have worked year-round to provide meals for our students, for our community. So May 7th, everybody, if you drive by your school or drop off in the morning, kind of honk your horn and thank your school lunchroom people and your food services staff, because they are really amazing. So superheroes they certainly are. That's May 7th, so thanks to our food service.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. I just have a couple of quick ones. I too had the opportunity to judge senior projects, and our students just continue to blow my mind with the things that they come up with, and the way that, I don't know if, did yours have, like, you have the project portion and then you have the presentation portion, and then there's a product that they have to create, right? And so one of mine was how like reusing clothing items helps the environment, but did a bunch of environmental research on top of it and tied it all together. And then I had another one that studied the importance of nutrition on child brain development. They were all so varied, and all of them did the coolest things to tie together their research, and every single one of them in some way, shape, or form gave back to the community. So one of the students, the one that did the nutritional study, actually put together a cookbook that combined both of her parents' cultures into individual recipes. And then she donated those cookbooks to people who were moving into Habitat for Humanity homes. So they would have a cookbook to get them started on their journey in their new home. So just awesome things like that, not only do I suspect is a great learning opportunity for the students, and it takes them the majority of the year to get that done, but also has a good positive impact in our community. So love, love, love those projects. Have to give a shout out to my Madison Middle School girls basketball team, who for the first time in at least a very, very long time, actually had an undefeated regular season and went on to district championships and narrowly lost to Cocoa High School. But did a phenomenal job. So congratulations to that team of girls who've worked so hard this year. And their coach, Cheryl Gill. Many of you may know that Cheryl's father was for many years a basketball coach in Brevard Public Schools as well. And so she carries on the family legacy. And then the last thing I'll say is, I don't know how much you guys have been seeing about our schools that have been being very creative with senior recognition nights or prom alternatives. But I just have to give kudos to all of the parents, all of the faculty and staff members, all of the students who are really just making the best of the challenges that we're facing. And from everything that I have seen, the ones that have gone off so far they have had so much fun. And certainly is not the traditional experience, but many of them have actually said that they prefer this experience over the traditional prom. So obviously that's, I'm not claiming that's majority, but they have done such a great job of creating a great experience for the students. So we are super appreciative of that. And that is going to bring us to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Mullins.
Ms. Belford and members of the board, on tonight's agenda, we have one presentation, 21 consent items, 2 action items, and 2 information items. Changes made to the agenda since it was first released to the public on April 20, 2021 are as follows. Items A7 on administrative staff recommendations and F12 on student expulsions received revisions. And that's it for tonight.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Jenkins. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Yes. Ms. Escobar, I'm going to have to do a voice vote because Mr. Susan broke his computer.
It's only broken for a minute until the tech guy comes up here and
All
fixes the
in
password.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
There's one here. You can vote off your
I
laptop.
just need the password. It says ESF wireless. I'm trying to get my password. It's not doing it. Oh. There we go. And I'm ready to go.
Dr. Mullins, will you please let us know about our administrative staff recommendations?
There is one person under this category for the board to consider.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Susan. We'll give that one a second to Ms. Campbell. Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Are you on?
I'm on. Just waiting for it to change
Mine
up.
is still stuck on the other one.
Yeah, I guess Katie hasn't voted on the other one yet.
Oh,
There we go. Moving.
no, I broke my computer.
Mine's not working.
I've never gotten oops.
I got a big oops.
I think Matt broke all of our computers and,
Yeah.
Are you out too, Ms. Jenkins?
I can see everything, but I can't vote.
Okay.
I don't see anything.
So we're going to go ahead and do a voice vote on that one as well. All in favor, please
Oh,
say
here it is.
aye.
Oh, there it
There it is. There it
Oh,
is.
woohoo, never mind on that voice vote. Vote. And the motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins, will you please let us know about tonight's presentation?
With absolute pleasure. I saved this as another shout out, if you will, because I knew it was coming up. Tonight is my superintendent's report. I asked Dr. Soliven and her team, her exemplary team of career and technical education, to provide the board and our community an update on the amazing work that our career and technical education programs are doing. You know, we tout our mission to serve students with excellence as a standard, and we probably don't often enough pause for a moment and demonstrate the excellence that we have achieved across our district. And tonight is certainly no exception. Our career and technical education programs receive regular state recognition. You may be asking, how can you stand behind that? The year before last, when the federal government came down to Florida and went to the DOE and said, hey, we want to go look at CTE programs in Florida that are really hitting the mark, that are an exemplar across the state. And the Florida DOE said, go to Brevard. And then I'll also say 3 weeks when the governor wanted to announce his priority to invest $75 million into career and technical education, where did he choose to come to make that announcement? Brevard. And stood in our aviation hangar at O'Galley High School, the only aviation fabrication high school program in the country, and touted on Brevard's CTE programs as an example of what needs to be expanded across the state. So it is with great pride and just a tremendous pleasure to introduce Dr. Stephanie Soliven, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Leading and Learning, who will introduce her staff for career and technical education. Dr. Soliven.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins, Mrs. Belford, school board members. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. The last time I was here was towards the end of the career of our previous career and technical education director, who had done remarkable things in her tenure. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing everyone who has not yet met our career and technical education director, Mrs. Rachel Rutledge. We are so blessed to have her on our team. She came to us with a wealth of career experience, academic experience, work in career and technical education in South Carolina, as well as in Volusia County. I was very happy to steal her. In the past 10 months, not even quite 10 months yet, 9 months, Rachel has been put to task to not only continue the great work that was done before, but take all of her passions, her experience, and her background and amplify results for our children. And she's done that in the midst of a global pandemic. And so I think what you'll see today is what commitment and perseverance can do for our children. You'll see a relentless dedication to expand opportunities and give more relevant experiences to our students. She's also going to introduce one of her team members, but I'm going to steal a little of the thunder. We were really excited to be able to rework some of our federal grant programs to identify a person with this specific goal of amplifying work-based experiences for our students. That's been a passion priority, of course, for our school board, but also for Dr. Mullins. I think every single time I talk to him, he talks about getting more work-based experiences for our students. And so happy to have with us today as well is Mrs. Switdock. Oh, I tried so hard. We stole her for Career Source. What a better place to take somebody to really work with our community leaders in creating additional opportunities for work-based experiences. So it is my absolute pleasure to turn over this presentation to our Director of Career and Technical Education, Mrs. Rachel Rutledge.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Good evening, members of the board, Chairman Belford, Superintendent Mullins. I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you this evening. And I would like to introduce Grace Sweddock-Norton. She is our work-based learning specialist, and as Dr. Sullivan mentioned, she is coming to us from Career Source Brevard. But prior to that, she was with Eastern Florida State College working in career and technical education. So her experiences have made her just the perfect fit for us in CTE to help lead our students into these work-based learning experiences. So we are very grateful to have her here. So you have a wonderful packet, wealth of information sitting in front of you there. You have some of our recent collateral that will help you better speak to the data that supports career and technical education in our district, as well as some of the recent news stories where our students have been featured in the news, as well as some documents regarding Perkins legislation and the Executive Order 1931, which we'll speak on in just a moment. Okay, so why career and technical education? I know most of the board members here, you are very familiar with CTE, but for those listening that are not, career and technical education is an opportunity to prepare students for both college and career opportunities when they graduate. It is a wonderful marriage of both academic success and technical skills. So students have a hands-on approach to learning that they often don't get in their core academic classes. It provides opportunities for all students where I've seen so many successes with students in their CTE classes that they might not get in traditional academic courses. You really see a chance for students to excel. And I love to see that. My personal experience and what drove me into CTE, I spent a lot of time floundering, trying to figure out my direction. I went to more of a liberal arts high school, didn't have some of that hands-on experience. And our students now get to try some different things and see what is it that I really like to do? What can I see myself earning a living doing? CTE is that perfect opportunity for those kids. And career and technical education is flexible, it's ever-changing, it's adapting, and it's preparing students for high-skill, high-wage, and high-demand careers. It's not your parents' VOTEC. It's not the old dirty manufacturing facility that you think of 50 years ago. Most of these manufacturing facilities, you could probably eat off the floor. It's that clean. We're not going to try that, but you know, it's possible. So some students may graduate from a CTE program of study and could go directly into the workforce. Or they may want to go to college. It's just depending on what the student's aspirations may look like. So there are some scholarship opportunities for students through Bright Futures. There's the Florida Gold Seal Vocational Scholars Award, as well as the Florida Gold Seal CAPE Scholars Award. I'm not going to go through all the details here, but many of our students want to go to college. That is the route that they want to take, and we want to express those opportunities to them. It's just depending, as I mentioned, as to what their career goals are. So, career and technical education is governed at the federal level by Perkins legislation. And we waited for a very long time in CTE for Perkins legislation to be reauthorized. In fact, it wasn't reauthorized until 2018 from back in 2006. There was a lot of old language in there that was governing us. So we were very excited when it finally came through that it placed more of an emphasis on special population groups as well as work-based learning, and it also put more of a focus on a comprehensive local needs assessment. And what that is it's involving all of the different stakeholder groups to take a really hard look at our CTE programs to ensure that we are providing the most relevant and rigorous opportunities for our students that are meeting the needs of all students. And when that new legislation came out, it shifted the focus a little bit of what we were doing in CTE. Oop. Clicked on a button. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay. So speaking of that comprehensive local needs assessment, as we start looking at our program offerings in Brevard Public Schools, it's critical that we involve these different stakeholder groups to provide the most relevant options for our students. So when we start looking at new programs or start looking at our existing programs to ensure we have the right offerings, we have to take a look at a lot of different things. First of all, is it meeting the needs of our labor market? And every different area within the state and within the nation has different needs. We would expect that. And we do have some very unique needs here in Brevard County. We are heavily driven by our manufacturing community. We have over 600 manufacturers in Brevard County. IT is a priority sector, healthcare, aviation, aerospace. These are high needs in our local community. And so that's defined by CareerSource, first of all. So we have to be thinking, how can we prepare our students to stay here? We want to feed into our local community and keep our kids here with the right skill set that we need. So when we're looking at programs, we look at regional and the state demand list, we look at targeted occupations, and try to find the right programs to put into place. We also don't want to just offer individual courses. We want to put together a program of study that leads them from the middle grades all the way through post-secondary. So if a student wants to begin exploratory classes that can lead them through graduation, they can go directly to work, or they can go into a post-secondary program, maybe a certificate program or apprenticeship, or they can go into an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. But the idea is that they have a pathway that they can go into whatever level of education they want to get to their next step. We also want them to have a work-based learning experience where they go to work and they get a feel for what it is they're going to do when they graduate. So many students step into the workforce and they don't like it. They've studied it for so long and they say, this isn't what I expected. What a great opportunity we have as educators to let them try it before they actually get out. They've spent so much time and money and energy into something they don't even enjoy. So it's a unique opportunity we have with CTE to help them get plugged in. Career Tech student organizations is another piece where they can compete and really push themselves. So, and industry certification is vital as well. So many of our programs provide them a certificate that tells business and industry partners that they have a level of knowledge and expertise that they can come right to work and know what they're doing. We've had business partners that have said, I had no idea. I didn't even have to tell the student what to do. We put some kids to work over here at Brevard County government, and they have been singing their praises. They just said these kids just started on projects, and they just sat down and started working with CAD. We didn't have to train them on that. They just got to work. And that's a testament to the education that they're getting in the CTE courses. All right, so Career and Professional Education Act is a Florida legislation. I'm not going to go into all the details with this, but it is specific to Florida. So when I moved out of South Carolina, this was very exciting for me because it is a collaborative effort between workforce and education to prepare quality students and quality graduates from our CTE programs. It also provides some bonus funding for our programs that help keep our equipment and facilities focused and help keep them help keep the appropriate equipment needed in the program and meet workforce needs. Some other legislation and initiatives that govern CTE is the Executive Order 1931. This came down from our governor in 2019 that charts a course for Florida to become #1 in the nation in workforce by 2030. And be sure that our students are prepared for jobs of the future. So this is what's guiding us in career and technical education, to keep trying to put new programs, new industry certifications, and keep challenging our students with rigor and new offerings. Also, House Bill 7071, which was passed in 2019, establishes an annual review of our CTE program. So we're constantly looking to improve. We don't want to be settled with what we've always done in the past. We want to keep pushing our kids. A few statistics for you. Now, this document that I shared with you, very colorful one in the front there, has lots of statistics that you can share. So put these in your pocket as you're walking around and talking with your friends. We have 42 high school CTE programs right now. These are unique programs throughout the district. We have 26 middle school course offerings right now. 39 memorandums of understanding in place for advanced standing at post-secondary institutions. That means that just by being a part of our CTE programs, students have credit in escrow when they go to college. How cool is that? Just by being a part and earning a good grade, they can go to college and they have some points in their pocket. And in career and technical education, we have a 95.1% graduation rate for CTE concentrators in 18-19. What that means is that if a student took 3 courses in a single CTE program of study, they are graduating at a 95.1% graduation rate. That's huge. That means if we can find what it is that sparks somebody's interest, we can get them across the stage because they found something that provides the why. That's what we need to find for every one of our students here, a reason to help them get through to that finished product. But in CTE, we're not just worried about the graduation. We want to find out what's their next step. We want to help them figure out what that next piece is going to be for them. Here's some highlights. Y'all, I had a very difficult time trying to narrow down these next few slides, but I'm going to try. I had a really difficult time. I kept getting edited. Okay, I'm going to try to run through these really quick. 48 students in the Teaching Academy at Bayside. In other words, potential teachers for Brevard Public Schools have a new radio station that was just put into place at Vieira. They are broadcasting Brevard into the world. They're currently playing a demo program right now. We have 10 graduates that are signing on immediately after graduation for full-time employment with L3 Harris. 15 rising seniors are going into Brevard Public Schools internships. 4 seniors were in Brevard County government internships. 8 graduates are getting full-ride firefighting scholarships. 11 graduates are going into welding apprenticeships. One student named Carson from Palm Bay earned 19 industry certifications. One. Wow. Isn't that amazing? I mean, this kid, engineering, design, Microsoft Office, and IT certifications, this kid's going to rule the world. He's going to rule the world. I'm so proud of him. We had 7 students in high school that earned the MSSC Certified Production Technician certification. That's what our advanced manufacturing adults are going immediately to work with right now. Highly marketable. And we had a perfect evaluation on our Perkins audit, which we'd expect it, but always amazing. Always amazing to talk about, right? Okay. I think I skipped over. Nope. Okay. Our students are also working with NASA Hunch. Hunch stands for High School Students United with NASA to create hardware. We've been sending items to the International Space Station. In fact, if you look here, these students from O'Galley are working on wire wraps. They're creating wire wraps, and the astronaut on the right is pictured with the wire wraps in space. Pretty cool, huh? So this is happening in our high school programs here in Brevard Public Schools.
I can't did you all hear that? Did you fall asleep? Our high school kids are making stuff that goes to the International Space Station. That is just, it's amazing. Nowhere else. Sorry, I had to get excited.
Put that on a marketing pamphlet.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins.
Making stuff.
All right, in terms of industry certifications, we hit a little hiccup with COVID, but what I want you to see is that it didn't knock us down. COVID did not knock us down. Our students have still persevered. They have been earning digital tools, which are showcasing their knowledge in cybersecurity and Microsoft Office, in digital literacy, and they've been earning industry certifications as well. We are providing additional access. Our pass rates were a little bit low last year, but we're coming at it full force this year. Even in spite of this pandemic, we're rocking and rolling. So I'm really proud of our students with everything that we've had going on. Here's a couple of highlights. Our first student earned CompTIA Security Plus. Another one of our students earned Python certification, which if you're in the IT world, there's some good money involved in those certifications. One of our middle school students earned a Gaming Essentials digital tool. We added ServSafe certifications into a few of our food science programs. And just last week, 9 of our students earned the 911 certification from Titusville High School, brand new program. So they can go directly to work, earning over $16 an hour.
First year program.
Here are a few of our facilities highlights, some pictures in our tech ed labs and our middle school culinary labs and our exercise science lab at Palm Bay. Our students are learning in state-of-the-art facilities. I'm going to have to be honest, I slid another highlight in first thing this morning. I had to. We had, We had our automotive programs went to the Universal Technical Institute this weekend and took 5 of the top 10 awards. So I had to highlight that, including the first place at O'Galley. I was really proud of them. You can see Edgewood Junior Senior had a first place in a region event for a video. Melbourne High had second place in an applied cybersecurity competition. That's a first-year program. Palm Bay just did an amazing job. So many awards in the Technology Student Association competition. Space Coast Principles of Teaching, another teaching program there, had 3 first-place awards. And Vieira High School, this is another hot off the press, won second place in a national social innovation competition, entrepreneurial type competition. So we're just really proud of what they're doing. And did I mention this was a COVID year? Okay. So this priorities for the upcoming year. One of them is work-based learning. In the strategic plan, we have a specific area that's dedicated to us in adult ed. We've been working really collaboratively with adult ed. We are partners in so much of what we do. We share a lot of business partners as well. And so we are working to establish those business partnerships in the best interest of our students. And so Grace has been working really hard to help develop systems to help scale what we're doing. In fact, right before we came in, we had 155 students that have expressed an interest in internships beginning in August. So we've got some ground to cover, but they're interested. They want to get out and make those connections. So we're going to make it happen for them. We're also going to be looking really strongly at our middle schools and looking at the programs to see what we can do to enhance those, continuing to upgrade and improve on our facilities. And we're going to be planning for a firefighting program, which we do not have in that career cluster. So in terms of work-based learning, we're going to be moving through, students go through a different continuum. They start by just learning a little bit about work through field trips, and then they go into job shadowing, and then they might do a school-based enterprise. And we are moving them into this career training mold. Even through our pre-apprenticeship, which we established last year, we are going to be moving them through an on-the-job training component as well. So we're going to be helping them get that high-level hands-on application piece so that they can go to work or post-secondary. And then as we move into other areas of focus, we're actually going to be working into elementary a little bit in the upcoming year, which is really exciting. Some of our elementary schools are going to be adding a digital tool, which is very exciting. So they're going to be doing some digital literacy. And so we're very excited to do that. Madison is going to be specializing a little bit. In their Innovate Academy, they're going to be adding a computer science pathway and a skilled trades pathway at their school. We're going to be reopening Stone's technology education program and adding a high school credit IT, information technology course into Madison. And we're going to be adding Titusville Lockheed Martin cybersecurity program in the next year. And as we continue to move, we're going to continue to be looking at increasing the middle school program offerings, building up our facilities, putting firefighting into place, and adding a central area construction-related program. Okay. Challenges to overcome, and board, I really need your assistance as we move forward with this. Expanding our business partner paid internship sites. You heard the number of students that we have interested. It's huge. We have some very talented, motivated kids that want to get to work and want to try this out and see what they can do. Let them show our community what they're capable of. So we really need your help finding spots for these kids. Please send them my way if you know people that might be willing to talk with me. We're also anticipating some major changes in the CAPE funding process that are coming down from the state. There's been a lot of conversation there. Also retaining and attracting qualified CTE teachers, always a challenge. We're going to continue looking and building up and training. We have some amazing teachers right now. There's always a need for further development and some more. And also staying current on equipment and technology needs. In an ever-changing CTE world, it's a battle to try to stay on top of what's current in our community. So I'm finished with our presentation. I've put lots of hot links here that you can check out on CTE, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that you have for me. I just appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight and all the great work that you're doing. Board members have questions for Ms. Rutledge?
I have a really important question. Can we film a commercial with Miss Rutledge to advertise for Brevard Public Schools?
Right.
I think she's more than qualified. But in all seriousness, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I love that you added that little piece in there that we're going to kind of tiptoe into elementary school, kind of start that interest and pique that interest, but also the awareness of our parents and the community that these programs will exist when they move on into middle and high. So thank you so much.
Anyone else? Mr. Susan?
I'll wait until after.
You know, he likes to go next to last. I thank you so much. It's always exciting to see what our kids are doing. But one thing that's really important to me, and I'm so glad that you incorporated it, is that the word "and," because it's a lot of times when the public talks about CTE, they're saying not all our kids are going to go to college, and so some of them need CTE, and I hate that because CTE really can belong in every sphere and along every path, and I love the opportunity and that we're encouraging that in our programming and our scheduling, even down to the guidance, our school counselor level, of opening those doors for our students, because even if they're headed to a college path, these experiences will help them greatly. And I've always imagined, it could help you get the job that helps you pay for your college, honestly, for some of them, but just that it is not an either or. We should be very clear. It's not an either or. It can be absolutely a both and. And like you said, the spark. I guess my question, down at the school level, what does this look like for when our counselors, when our kids are coming, and some of the hurdles that we've started to overcome and that we're going to continue to overcome is how do we let our parents and our students know, who aren't doing the homework necessarily, what each school has to offer, because every school has so much. How do we do that on a school level of letting a student, whether they're whatever career path or education path they're planning on while they're in our schools, how do we open that door to those students?
I think we have the infrastructure set up right now because we have the career planning component in our middle schools, where if we could lean in a little bit more to those 8th grade courses and give students the opportunity to explore what's available to them in the high schools, that's a perfect opportunity that we already have in place. to talk with students about their opportunities when they get to high school. Because even if the program that they think they would want to be a part of is not available right at their zone school, there's something similar to it.
Right.
So if the kid really enjoys working with their hands and thinks they'd want to go into HVAC, if the HVAC program's not available, chances are there's a construction program. So they could still fulfill that need and get that hands-on experience, and then maybe for their internship, they could participate in an HVAC program. And so they could still be in the same line of program that they have an interest in. So that's one thing we already have in place that we could lean a little harder with. I also think there's more that we could do at the elementary level to begin talking to parents and students so that they could understand what their, what their options are, because at that level, that's when the kids are starting to, you think you can do anything and everything when you're a little one. So starting to talk to them about all their different possibilities when they get older, I think that's an area that we can work on as we move forward.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I just want to add, Ms. Klein and I are working on some possible modifications to our strategic plan that really focus on transition programs. So, for example, it might be that all 6th grade students get an opportunity to visit the high schools, the middle schools to the high schools, our high schools to Eastern Florida. We think like seeing and feeling and experiencing is really important. So transition in general and students understanding the next step of opportunities is some critical work we'll be doing this summer.
That is awesome. And also I really appreciate Government and Community Relations, who has helped with some of the videos they've done going out. And I know we're going to be doing some more in May where we get to go. The board members are going to get to go visit with Dr. Mullins. And so really excited about the partnership that you guys have with them. Thank you for everybody working together to get the word out, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Mr. Susan?
Got anything to say?
I just want to say, great presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm very excited. We have a great program.
You nailed it, Jenkins, but you never even looked at your script. You lived this, right? And when you were speaking, you didn't literally look down. You just are plugging away. And I'm so proud not only of that, the way you said y'all. I really love that. Thank you for that. That came out, and I'm glad. It was when you were most excited, too. So, but I wanted to say, when I came on in 2016, I had sat on the Economic Development Council Board of Directors, had sat in with all these manufacturers, and they kept screaming more trades, right? And we had a great program, but we didn't have the gap fillers. We didn't have the pieces in between the actual programs to create, and that's what you're doing. And I just wanted to say, I spent 2 days out in Houston with the NASA Hunch program, where some of our kids at the time were over there competing and kicking the you-know-what out of the other schools from the nation doing it. But you're creating, not only taking our best practices, but filling in the gaps in between. Meaning, you're already looking at how the middle schools going into the high schools. That's huge because the kids couldn't make the decisions, right? You're looking at all of those elementary school programs. You're bringing the internships, and that's that connected pipeline that was so needed and that everybody out there's been screaming for. So I wanted to give you all the credit in the world for doing that. We talked about what this does and everything else. This saves kids' lives, so that you guys understand. Like, when you get a kid that's hooked in elementary or middle school into the trades, it saves their lives because they know the difference. They have something to buy in, and you said it. You said why. They have a why now to go to school, because the majority of those kids that don't find a home, that are sitting inside of a box, inside of a chair, inside of a classroom, they feel confined. But when they've got one class that they can go to, and that's that career and technical program where they can work with their hands, when the kids can sit back, it's amazing. And you have created that pathway for them. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to lie to you. I go around all the time, and it got frustrating at first because I was like, hey, wait a minute. I go to a lot of the businesses, and I said, hey, you should get involved with helping out our career and technical. He goes, oh, I talked to a lady from there. She's the director of the CTE program. It happens all the time. At least, I'm not kidding you, 10 times a month, I'm with somebody that you've already talked to that's inside there. You are not only creating this, but you're doing all of the work outside of the community. I know that it sounds like I'm praising you for everything, and there's a lot of other people that have created this, but thank you for all of your work. I mean, honestly, this was amazing. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Dr. Mullins?
Well, I've got to just bring a couple points of emphasis. Sometimes when we think of career and technical education and college and career ready or experience, we limit it to our mindset of high school. But what you heard tonight is Brevard Public Schools' commitment to every level of our education and our kids in that pathway, preparation, and access to what are award-winning programs and college opportunities as well as career opportunities. We have 26 middle school course opportunities. We have high school earning credit middle school opportunities. And we are pushing digital tools into a dozen plus elementary schools this coming year, and we're looking for opportunities that expand it even more. So that career and technical education and college and career readiness becomes an elementary conversation among our kids in Brevard Public Schools, elementary schools. So I just want to emphasize that CTE of years ago is not CTE of today. It's state of the art, it's high tech, high skill, high wage preparing opportunities for our kids that we are pushing all the way into our elementary schools so that they then have that awareness and pathway to middle school and then have that access to our programs in high school. So I would just emphasize this is a full continuum priority and pursuit for our kids. And two last things real quick. I'm so proud of Brevard Public Schools, not only for investing in programs, but we're investing in our kids. BPS is leading the way in the number of student internships we're going to have over the course even this summer. We're reinvesting in our kids, bringing them back into our mechanic departments and our public relations departments and so on, and employing our kids that are in our CTE program. And last, Ms. Campbell alluded to it, we have declared the month of May Career and Technical Education Celebration and Awareness Month. You don't want to miss the posts, the links, the announcements that we'll be making, and we're going to be bringing our community into our schools and into our programs to give, so you can see the real live kids and the real live instructors who are working in our career and technical education program. So February may be the National CTE Month, which was fine, but May is Brevard CTE Month. Stay tuned and anticipate seeing some amazing things and some amazing students sending stuff to the International Space Station. Pretty amazing, so thank you.
We'll always take a second month of CTE celebration. Thank you, everyone, for the time this evening. We appreciate your support.
Rutledge, and we certainly appreciate all of the hard work that you're doing.
Can we just call the meeting now?
I tried that before we started the first one, but no.
That was good.
All right, we are now at public comments. If we have more speakers than seating inside the boardroom, which does not appear to be the case, there may be people waiting outside. Speakers are required to wear face masks covering the nose and mouth while walking to the microphones and when traveling back to his or her seats. As long as you maintain 6 feet from the nearest person, you may remove your mask while speaking. But please remember to wear your mask as you return to your seat. Hand sanitizer and sanitizing wipes are provided at the microphones. Though School Board Policy 0169.1 limits to 30 minutes the portion of the meeting during which the public is invited to participate and provide public comment, the policy further provides that this time limit may be extended by a vote of the board. We have 16 speakers signed up this evening. If board members determine to not hear all speakers at the first public comment section, Mr. Gibbs has indicated it's okay to first hear speakers who are addressing agenda items first. However, if we decide to hear them all at one time, we will take them in the order in which they were received.
Move to hear all.
Mr. Susan has offered a motion to listen to all 16 speakers during our initial public comment period. I will entertain a second. Ms. Campbell has seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Okay, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. We have a clock in front of me to help you keep track of your time. When your time is over, you will be asked to stop and allow the next speaker his or her turn. Always keep in mind that reasonable decorum is expected at all times, and your statement should be directed to the board chairman. As chairman, I may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement. When time is up, if it's personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Should an individual not observe proper etiquette, I may request the individual leave the meeting. Let's all encourage an environment appropriate for our children who may be present or are watching from home. Please note that in order to proceed with the business portion of the meeting, board members will not have opportunity to respond to speakers during or immediately following public comments. I may, however, direct you to specific staff members to assist, or board members may request that I add your topic as a discussion item at the end of the meeting. Let's begin with our first 3 speakers. Carrie Rather, Michael Zingarelli, and Sarah Hayfield. Before speaking, please, you can go ahead and approach. Before speaking, please state your name, the organization you represent, if any, and identify the topic you will be discussing.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Rather, and I'm going to be talking about the mask mandate. I'm a mother of 2 children that go to and attend Brevard Public School. I am asking that tonight you make masks voluntary for our students. In a recent article, CNN has stated that 16 states have never had or no longer have mask mandates. And Newsweek has stated that Mississippi and Texas, the most recent states to drop their mask mandates, have seen no spikes in COVID cases. Both states are now seeing their lowest rates of COVID cases in a year. I feel that the school board should follow our state government's guidance regarding mask mandates and rule that masks should be voluntary. Let the parents make the decision that is right for their children, and remove the mask mandates now, today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carrie. Up next is Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Coach Susan, and everybody else. Last time I was called Mr. Zingarelli was my dad, so call me Coach Z. It's probably easier. I'm going to talk about thanking the board. I think I've emailed, probably not Ms. Jenkins, but everybody else. You all responded to me. And first of all, Ms. McDougall, thinking about the food people. I invited them over to the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station yesterday at the Lighthouse. Actually, my wife did. She's the boss. And she's the curator. And we had 16 people from the district walk through, including the button, had a great time. Now, I'm not supposed to address you, I'm sorry, but we had a great time. And they do appreciate it. And I know the first thing that Mr. Susan does, he always goes into the kitchen wherever he visits the schools. Absolutely. So thank you for bringing that up. Now, the other thing is Mr. Brown. Remember Mr. Brown? The guy who always tells the jokes and the stories? You know, he hasn't been here, has he? And so he called me up and told me I had to give a story. So just like Mr. Mullins, I walk around. I got ABCD, so it's nothing great. Dr. Mullins said he got this report about the testing, the EOC test at the last minute, stuff like that. CDC, chairman, last minute, you got to change stuff. So I was saying, you know, I used to work with the board walking in Atlantic City, put boards in. Mike Tyson used to come do his road work in scatty outfits, you know, that crappy stuff. Champion of the world, he's got raggy stuff. And I said, Mike said, Mr. Tyson, give me some philosophy. What really works in the world? You know, what do you see in the world? And Dr. Mullins said, you know, it's how do you think? He said, Zing, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Think about it. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I feel you guys get punched in the mouth all the time. So that's my story. That's for Mr. Brown. The other thing, I was going to have a walkthrough. I'm supposed to look at you. I was going to show you the facilities at Vieira High, our baseball and softball facility. Would take not too much, because there are no facilities. We're the road runners. We're the Harlem Globetrotters. We have no home field. But because of Dr. Mullins, you get reciprocated back financially because of that. We appreciate that, Dr. Mullins. We have no signage. And we have to play at the Vieira Park. We can't charge admissions because it's a public park. I tried one day. Some of these police officers recognized me, so I tried to do that. So the other thing is subs. I've been a sub for 25 years. I've subbed for Ms. McDougall at Central, Ms. Moore at Central, Ms. Novelli at Ponte. I subbed even for Coach Susin. Coach Susin, you talk about lesson plans. First thing I had to do was sing and dance. But anyway, Mr. Dr. Mullins, please think. Pay the stubs for lunch, please. 7.5. It's a punch in the gut. I mean, you sign in. 8 hours goes to 7.5 right away.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Coach. We appreciate it.
That half-hour lunch.
Thank you, Coach. We appreciate
Now, I'm
you.
gonna go back to the baseball game.
Have a great night.
See you, Coach.
All right, Sarah Hayfield. And as Sarah's approaching, our next three speakers are going to be Chandler Langevin, Joyce Routh, and Jennifer Dunn.
I asked a couple of my friends to start coming out and talking to us.
Can you tell them to stop when the timer's up so I don't have them hauled out of here? That would
Why?
be great.
This is turning out to be a great meeting.
Sarah?
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
I just want to speak about my son. This is in regards to the mask mandate for this coming year and the decision about it. I'm just going to read what I wrote. So, when he was a toddler, his nickname was the Cheerful Pumpkin because he had such a happy, cheery disposition, almost always smiling and happy, and he loved to giggle. As my son grew older and turned 6, 7, and 8, he kept his sunny disposition. Of course, he had his moments, but honestly, he has always been such a happy, sweet, good-natured boy. That's why it completely took me and the rest of our family by complete surprise when late last year, out of the blue, literally, he began having severe anxiety and to a lesser degree, aggression. In January of this year, just a few weeks after Christmas, he came up to me and said, "Mom, I'm worried." When I asked him what specifically he was worried about, he thought for a while, but never really could say exactly what. He just knew he was worried that something was very off, and he was severely anxious about it, and it just got worse after that. The following weeks, I watched with growing anxiety myself as my happy, good-natured boy turned into someone I didn't recognize. He was still 8 years old then, so I ruled out puberty. After that first episode, he began having sudden onset anxiety on an almost daily basis. Sometimes he would just start crying, and he still couldn't even tell me exactly what he was sad or worried about. After a couple weeks of this, I decided he needed to see a child therapist. I literally didn't know what else to do. My happy child had been replaced by a sad, anxious wreck who was starting to think there was something wrong with himself. That was the worst part. It broke my heart the first time he asked me, "Mom, is there something wrong with me? Why can't I stop being worried all the time?" It took another week and a half to find a therapist who took his insurance and get an appointment. But finally, my son got in to see a counselor. By this time, his personality was so different, I felt like I hardly knew him anymore. He had begun to second-guess himself about everything. The anxiety attacks he was having on a daily basis were making him doubt everything else about himself. I think the thing that bothered him the most was that he did not know why he was so worried all the time. Fast forward to today. He's seeing a therapist, but he still has sudden anxiety often. So when the study started coming out showing the detrimental effects of masks on children, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. That is why I'm here tonight. I want my happy-go-lucky child back. What I don't want to see is a worried little boy's eyes staring out from behind a face mask. There is no reason to make masks mandatory anymore. In fact, there is every reason not to. So let's end this child abuse right away, right now, please.
Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you joining us. Chandler?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Chandler Langevin. I'm also here tonight to talk about the mask mandate in our public schools. If you look at states and communities that have mask mandates versus those that don't have mask mandates, we're not going to see a correlation in the numbers that makes any sense. We're not going to see, oh, the states with mask mandates, they're doing so much better per capita with COVID, and those states like Florida that don't have mask mandates, they're doing horrible. That's just not the case that we've seen over this past year. So the science doesn't really make sense. We've also seen studies come out that actually show that there really can't prove the efficacy of masks in general anyways. All right, and now we're starting to get studies coming out that masks on our children are causing physical, emotional, and psychological health issues on our children. So I'm here today to ask you that we stop the mask mandate in our county, in our school board. Florida is open, Brevard County is open. Let's get our schools not to make it voluntary to wear the mask if they so choose, but not mandate that they do so. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chandler. Joyce?
Hello. My name is Joyce Ruth, and I'm a mother of 5, 2 of which go to Brevard schools, Delora and Satellite High. And I too am here to talk about the mask mandates. First of all, I want to thank you in advance for your attention. I know we're all talking about the mask mandates, it seems so far. I am asking that you consider making it voluntary, and sooner rather than later. The summer is getting warm. The kids are hot. I have personally witnessed with my own 2 boys that they lack enthusiasm. They've lost self-confidence. They're withdrawn. And the vaccines are now available. They've been available for some time now, and I do work in healthcare, and I know that the supply is starting to outpace the demand. So the people that are going to get vaccine are getting vaccinated. The mask should be a personal choice. I also want to mention that, given everything that's going on with our schools, we did take our children to walk through a private school. And the first thing the 2 boys said is they just could not get over the fact that they could see all the faces of the kids in the school. And it was multiple age groups. And they just didn't understand why their school, they had to wear these masks. I do want to point out that our wonderful speaker tonight, which I really appreciate, I didn't catch her name, but the CTE speaker, she was very animated, very enthusiastic, but I wanted to point out she did not have a mask on, and you could see her face and you could feel her energy, and it was self-confidence that she had, and that's what I really want my boys to have. And why do we need to wait until the fall to make this decision when we're just asking for you to reconsider the policy and make it voluntary? So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Joyce. All right, as Jennifer Dunn is approaching, our next 3 speakers after her will be Amber Cheney, Gordon Sumner, and Carol Byonsky? Byonsky. Thank you, Ms. Campbell.
What is the point of going and speaking? They aren't going to listen. This is what my son, who is here with me tonight, had to say about me coming here and speaking to you two. My boys are 7 and 14. I have spoken to them and several of their friends on their feelings about the mask policies, and their responses to me as a parent are not reassuring and frankly very sad. My older son has mentioned to me he has lost trust and respect for some of his teachers and school staff. This is not the type of atmosphere our children should be taught in. Meanwhile, I'm also surrounded by friends who are educators that are afraid to speak out about what they are seeing in regard to lack of sanitation, especially amongst elementary age children. We have young children coming home at the end of a school day with filthy, discolored masks that have been on their little faces for over 7 hours. They get dropped in the dirt and then picked right up and put back on. They touch surfaces in the restroom and then touch their masks. They sneeze inside their mask and then it's left moist and to fester on their mouths. This is a little boy that lives down the street from me. I counted 15 masks hanging from his handlebars. So I asked him, "Do you reuse these masks?" He told me yes. If I forget one at home, I always have one on my bike. It's time to take a good hard look at the mask policies you have put in place. None of this is good for our children's mental or physical health. It's time to unmask our children.
Thanks, Jennifer. Amber?
I'm a little shorter, sorry.
Do you want it adjusted?
No, that's okay. I can do it.
Okay.
My name is Amber Cheney, and I have 3 children. One is at PBS at Merritt Island High, and why ultimately, as his parent, I am in charge of the educational decisions. But he's such a bright boy that I value his opinion. And when I talked to him about the masks, and I talked to him about PBS and what he felt when I started talking about moving him out, just 2 of the things that he told me that why he wanted to stay is he's really excited about the course offerings in high school, and it's just ironic CTE was here because he's into automotive. He's super excited about JROTC, things that BPS can offer him. And so that's why I want him to stay at BPS. However, if the mask mandate is in place in the fall, I am 100% removing him. We will not stay if it's not an option. So I wanted to come here tonight and just ask that I would like that the masks be optional. Let those who want to wear them, wear them. Let those who don't. And I'd also like to ask you to please make a timely decision on this, just so that parents like me or parents who maybe want the mask mandates, just give us time to make those choices for our children if we feel we need to make different choices. So thank you.
Thanks, Amber. Gordon?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have a letter here. I think I've emailed it to everybody but Dr. Mullins. Would you like a copy? It has references for every statement. A lot of people have been giving their feelings today. I'm going to give you some facts. My name is Gordon Sumner. I have 3 kids in the Brevard County school system, 8, 10, and 13, 2 at Ocean Breeze and 1 at Hoover. I've read the 8402 along with the other statutes that you claim authority to have this mask mandate under. A lot of vague language in there. I'm not a lawyer, but if I could poke some holes in it, I'm pretty sure a good lawyer can. So I did some more research. I looked into the CDC. I started looking into their reports. Why are they doing this mask mandate? Same thing again. It may, it might, it should, could, would, but no definite statements and definitely no research to back it up. Other than a 300-page report, you read that, you find 1 sentence that they used in that entire report to base their whole recommendations on, and you have cite sources for that. Nothing I said in here can't be proven. It's a myth that masks prevent viruses from spreading. First of all, I want to say I've been a paramedic for 15 years, so that makes me more qualified than the media spokesperson, Bill Gates. Have a higher qualification than him to speak on this than he does. Paramedic and 15 years experience. It's a myth that masks prevent viruses from spreading. The overall evidence is clear. Standard cloth and surgical masks offer next to no protection against virus particles or small aerosols. The size of a virus particle is much too small to be stopped by a surgical mask, cloth, or bandana. A single version of SARS-CoV-2 is about 60 to 40 nanometers, or about 0.1 microns. The size pore of a surgical mask is 200 to 1,000 times that. And the difference in that is bacteria is larger, about 500 times larger. It clumps together because it's a spores. So guess what happens? Bacteria gets trapped in, virus still goes out. Makes no sense. Additionally, children have been repeatedly shown to not be drivers of this contagion. It is well accepted that the children have a statistically 0 chance of dying from COVID. CDC shows K through 12 mortality rate of 0.00003. Regardless of the lack of safety and efficacy behind these decisions to require a child to wear a mask, it is illegal to mandate emergency use authorization, approved investigational medical therapy without informed consent. It is also illegal to state that that emergency use authorization product prevents transmission of disease. You can't tell somebody that it does what it doesn't do. And promoting this as mandatory, you're saying it does. There's no evidence that it does. If you find some and you've read the sites that they report, please email them to me and we'll work it out. I'm not going to get through all this. No excuse will be accepted for positively, negatively affecting our children. Out of my jurisdiction, my hands are tied. State policy, federal policy will no longer be accepted. Y'all work for us. We decide what is done for the kids.
Thank you, Gordon. We
I
appreciate
want
you
to thank
coming.
you guys. I know you do a lot. You do a lot of good things. The CTE program is great. Thank you guys. But this is enough. The insanity has to stop.
Thank you, Gordon. All right, as Carol makes her way up, our three speakers after her will be Carrie Cax, it looks like, Michael Bloom, and Ashley Hall. Carol?
Hi, my name is Carol Vyhansky. I'm the parent of a 6th grade Brevard public school student, and I'm also here to speak on the mask mandate. There are currently 3 vaccines available for any adult in the state of Florida who wants one. You don't even need an appointment any longer. You can just go walk in and get one. Any teacher, any school employee, any parent, any grandparent who wants the vaccine can go and get it. It doesn't make sense to continue to force our children, who even the CDC says are the least vulnerable population for this virus, to continue to have to wear masks to school every single day, 7 hours a day. Any parent who wants to continue letting their child wear a mask should be allowed to do so. Any teacher can still do so, but we also should have the right as parents to send our children to school without the mask. It wouldn't create any chaos in the school for you guys to change the policy now and tell them that masks are now optional rather than mandatory. I'm sure that the schools could make that change very easily. So I'm just asking that you end the mask mandate for our students. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Carrie?
I'm going to read what I wrote because I'm not good at public speaking.
No worries.
Thank you for having me tonight. My name's Carrie Takis. I have a child at Tropical Elementary and a child at Jefferson Middle School. We moved here in April 2019 after my husband retired from the United States Coast Guard. He couldn't be here tonight due to work, so I'm here to speak for our family. I'm here asking you not to require masks for the new school year, or at least make them voluntary. There are monumental amounts of fact-based information out there, providing that masks are ineffective at preventing the spread of COVID-19. While my husband was active duty, he completed FEMA's National Incident Management System course at the CDC's Plum Island's Animal Disease Center. Since 1954, it served as the only laboratory in the nation that can work on the live foot and mouth diseases and foot and mouth vaccines, as well as other diseases. It's the only place in North America that stores a variety of vaccines that have been developed to combat more than 60 strains of foot and mouth disease. Why am I telling you this? Because in the week-long course that he took there, he was not allowed to bring anything to the island other than what he was wearing in his smartphone. If you brought food or any other items, it was with the knowledge that the item would remain on the island indefinitely to be incinerated as to not pose danger of contaminating mainland Long Island or the rest of the country. During his course, he toured their level 1 and level 2 facilities. At no point in his training did he ever wear a mask, despite the fact that the island houses very contagious diseases. Due to his experience throughout the pandemic, my family continued to live our lives as normal. We haven't worn masks all year. We didn't practice social distancing with our family's friends or our neighbors who hung out with us the entire time. This was imperative because our 10-year-old son has high anxiety, so much so that at the start of COVID, he was washing his hands until his skin was raw. We ultimately decided to keep him, as well as our 12-year-old daughter, virtual the entire year, due to the unnatural, restrictive, and futile mask mandate. This negatively impacted his learning with no fault of his teachers, who were forced to teach both a physical class and virtual class simultaneously. However, his inability to tolerate a mask for 7 hours straight left us with no choice. Tonight, I'm asking you to please make it voluntary. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Michael? Good. All right, Ashley Hall?
Hello, members of the board. My name is Ashley Hall. I'm the Brevard Chair for Moms for Liberty. I am a working mother. It takes me a lot of time to get here at 5:30. So I've been here every meeting. We have asked the same thing. These parents are here because we are seeing the effects that masks have on our children. We have more evidence, and when we know better, we can do better. We have received responses that nothing will be changing this year. Why? If we know better, we can do better. You received a letter from the Florida Department of Education stating the data shows face covering policies do not impact the spread of the virus. Face coverings are a personal decision. These policies impede instruction, especially for students with disabilities and English language learners that benefit from seeing a teacher's face and mouth. So I ask you again, why would we rob our children of one more final month of them going to school and being able to breathe freely? You want to serve our students with excellence. This study lists out the negative side effects that masks have on our children. This is no longer a question. This is a verified scientific study that you all put your hats on. Hypoxemia, hypercapnia, shortness of breath, increased lactate concentration, decline in pH levels, acidosis, toxicity, inflammation, self-contamination, increase in stress hormone levels, increased muscle tension, immunosuppression, the psychological effects, activation of fight or flight stress response, chronic stress condition, fear, mood disturbances, insomnia, fatigue, comprised cognitive performance, health consequences, increased predisposition for viral and infection illness, the very thing that we are trying to prevent here, we are causing by putting masks on our children. Headaches, anxiety. Have you heard this before? This is frustrating to be here every meeting and nothing change. You have to have a letter from the Florida Department of Education to take the masks off our children. Parents, it's time to take the masks off your children. We don't need your approval to keep the masks on our children.
Thanks, Ashley. All right, our next three speakers will be Karen Fulton, Hillary Earle, and then Katie Ainsley. Karen?
I don't know if I can follow that up, because I don't have that passion like Ashley does, but I like it and I admire it. I like everybody to be happy. I like everybody to agree about things. I was talking to my son before I came here, and he's like, "Mom, are you thinking that everybody's going to agree with you?" And I said, "Yes, I think so. Why can't we all just be winners? Why can't we all just agree? You know, that's just kind of how I am." But I have to say, I'm very concerned. I'm not a parent. I am a parent, but I have no children in the school system. But I'm just very concerned for kids. I love kids. I love children. I love adolescents. And I'm just very, very concerned with what's going on in our school system today. I think we're in a very difficult situation where we're kind of almost backed into a corner. We have this side and we have this side. And my thought is, why can't we just come together for kids? Why can't we look at what's right for kids? Why can't we see what we need to do for kids and put our pride aside or whatever it is, and just look at what's right for them? I used to be a special ed teacher, and I can't tell you how many times in the classroom I said to my kids, look at my face. Am I happy with you right now? Am I frustrated with you right now? I mean, these children had to be taught those things, you know? And so I know that seeing a face is a very, very important thing. And also my little special ed students, they a lot of them, they couldn't hear very well. They needed to look at my lips. They needed to see my expression, see my how I was enunciating. That was a huge part of my job. And since COVID has hit, I can't help but just feel so sad for those little special ed kids that I don't even understand how your teachers could do what they've been able to do. I mean, it's really, really amazing because it's just such a difficult situation that we've all been in. So I would ask that you drop the mask mandate. It just makes no sense to me. I would appreciate your thought on that. And then after that, maybe we can all just come together and hold hands and be all right. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Karen. Hillary?
Thank you. Is this on? Okay. Hi, I'm Hillary Earl. I'm here also to ask that the mask mandate be made voluntary. I think living through COVID, we've all long endured a debate on the masks, no masks, landing as a nation on a position of if the masks provide even 0.5% of protection, well, where's the harm? But a year into this now, we know where the harm is lying, okay? And it's really on our kids. We've talked, many people have touched on the physiology of it, you know, the immune suppression, the breathing problems. We've talked about the psychology of it, the fact that, you know, I'd studied body language and neuroscience as it relates to when you approach somebody and if they simply just have their hand covering their mouth in some way, you know, it increases your inability to trust them and your stress hormones. So imagine what's happening to our kids when they just biologically are not able to see someone's face at all ever. What sort of stress hormones are being created? What sort of fight or flight is going on there? And then third, I think even worse than anything is that because we have kind of mandated this without the support and even going against logic and truth in many ways, we are in essence grooming our kids to do without question, to go against logic and just kind of follow orders, even if the logic, the science, and the truth cannot be found to support it. And I wonder what the long-term effect of that will look like in our kids as they grow into adulthood. So I beg of you, for that alone, that you consider making this voluntary, that we could show our kids that, hey, your family is empowered to make these decisions for you, and let them do the research and let them determine your risk factor. So that's it. I thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Hillary. All right, Katie Ainsley, and then our last speaker of the night, Carrie Gerace.
Hi, my name is Katie Ainsley. I'm a mom of 5 children. My older 2 attend Heritage High School, where my husband is a head football coach, assistant athletic director, and a history teacher. Our family is very well invested in Brevard Public Schools. As a mother of all these children who have to wear masks all day, I see the health risks that they're facing. My 3rd child, who's 13, is a severe asthmatic. And as soon as he had to wear the mask, his asthma has increased. He has headaches, he's had sinus issues, and he's come home exhausted every day. It's not healthy for him to have his breathing trapped, his lungs restricted, and these headaches are impairing his ability to work in school. My older 2, who are at Heritage High School, are both part of the Cambridge program. My oldest son was in dual enrollment as well. He's a great football player. My daughter's a great basketball player. They're model students. Heritage is lucky to have them there. They're straight A students, great athletes. They test very well. They've never been in trouble, ever. Their teachers love them. Raving report cards. This year alone, they've been talked to more about those stupid masks. They'll fall down when they're talking to their friends, or they'll take them off while they're eating. And because they're known, because their dad is the head football coach and a teacher there for the last 7 years, the faculty knows them. Hey, Ainsley, put on your mask. They're eating. They're in the cafeteria. It's ridiculous. I've called the principal. We've had meetings. We've come to a resolution about it. But it is absolutely insane that my straight-A students, my great athletes, my well-behaved children, the only time they're ever talked to is about the mask. And it happens to be because they're eating or because they're talking and they fall down under their chin. Not because they're blatantly disregarding rules, not because they're being rude. Whenever they're spoken to, they put it back over their mouth because we've taught them to be respectful. But this has got to end. My kids need to be able to think clearly, breathe in fresh air. They do not need to suffer from headaches. Their asthma does not need to be greatly increased to the point where my child will not leave without his inhaler in his hand because he's so fearful of not being able to breathe. It's not okay for my kindergartner who's learning how to read to not be able to see his teacher's mouth when she's teaching them the different phonetic sounds. So please remove this mask mandate and make it optional.
Thank you, Katie. Carrie?
Good evening. Hi. So when I was here 2 weeks ago, I spoke to you about the teacher's view of the masks on the children, and now we have a room full of adults telling you what they're seeing with their own children. Tonight, what I want to talk to you about, though, is the ideology of, excuse me, critical race theory and how it is causing an uproar about public education. When you look at the news of the riots and the looting and all the things that are happening in these other states, and you see the general population of who's doing this. It's young, just graduated from college, kind of generation of kids, and where did they learn this? How did our kids grow up to hate America? And so for anybody who doesn't really know what critical race theory is, I'm not going to take my 3 minutes giving you the definition because I brought along for myself 3 things that I want to say of why I'm concerned about it as a teacher. The first thing is our new reading curriculum that is rolling out next year. I haven't been able to put my hands on it. I've been a teacher here at Brevard for more than 10 years. When I started, we were teaching from treasures. I remember when we had the opportunity in the teacher's lounge to touch the books, and then Journeys came out. We looked at it, we voted on it, all that sort of thing. With this one, there was an email earlier in the year. You can click on this link, you can watch it, you can find out about it. And when I did that, all I could see was this is what it's going to look like from the teacher's perspective. What I'm worried about is what are the quality of the stories that I'm going to be reading with and teaching my children with. I can't see that. My colleague who just had her training last Friday on this said even in the Zoom meeting training, she was not able to see the quality of the stories that we will be teaching with next year. And that's very disturbing to me and disappointing at this stage of the rollout. The second thing is that I brought along with me is a brief curriculum that the schools were required to teach to the children called Child Safety Matters. And there was something in my script of what I had to read to my 3rd grade class that just stopped me in my tracks. And I did flag it today, and I was going to read it, but then I thought, well, you know what, maybe that's not appropriate in this setting. So if any of you want to know what it is that I was disturbed about, I'd be happy to share it with you. And then the third thing that I brought with me is a book that So, there we go. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. All right, the board wishes to thank this evening's speakers. Your willingness to speak to the board is appreciated. Is Ms. Klein here? Do you know, Dr. Mullins?
Yes.
Ms. Klein, if you can hear us, if you wouldn't mind checking in with Carrie on that access to curriculum issue, that would be fabulous. Waiting on the magic door to open. There she is. Carrie, would you raise your hands? Ms. Klein, connect with you, please. Thank you. Okay. Any requests for addition of discussion items? Ms. Campbell? Just requesting to add to the end of the meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we add a short discussion on masks/COVID protocols discussion general, not just masks, but quickly? Thank you.
Okay. All right. That's going to move us into the consent agenda, Dr. Mullins.
There are 21 agenda items under the consent agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. Does any board member wish to pull any item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Jenkins. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Still on administrative staff. Need a voice vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. The motion passes 5-0.
There it was. Gotta read.
All right, we will now move on to the action agenda, Dr. Mullins.
The first item is G31 on department school initiated agreements.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second. Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Oh, that's the consent. I just consent.
Oh, that's the one I just got to.
Reset it.
If we do that.
There we go. All right, here she comes.
All right, item G31, department school initiated agreements. I will entertain a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Item G32 is on procurement solicitations.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell.
I just can't let this opportunity go by
Oh.
without celebrating the beginning of the end of AS 400. And for those of you who have no idea what that is, we have a, what's a nice word of saying it?
Antiquated.
Antiquated, thank you. An antiquated information system that has been a solid rock for decades.
Literally.
Black screen with green DOS typewriting, and
Floppy disks.
Huh?
I'm just kidding.
And it deserves a graceful burial soon. And so I'm just really thankful for Mr. Cheatham and all of the staff for putting this together, for finance, for everybody who had a piece in getting us towards this new system. And I think we're all super excited about the potential for parents who have asked for the last couple of years, why can't we do online registration? Why can't we do online registration? Here we go. Here we go. All right. So it may not, this year registration's already going, but we didn't have the big monster of AS400, just couldn't handle that. So we're super excited to have that. And thank you everybody who had a piece in getting this across the finish line. This is like, if I could get to the end of my school board term and say, this is what I did, this one vote tonight makes me super excited. So among other things. So I think it'll be so helpful for our parents and students, and I will shut up.
Awesome recognition, Ms. Campbell. Thank you so very much. All right, so I had a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Are we able to vote, Ms.?
Yeah, if you highlight it at the top and you hit enter, then it comes.
Mine just popped up.
All right, hearing none, please vote. The motion passes 5-0. We have 2 information items. No vote will be taken this evening on these items, but they may be brought back for action at a later time. Does any board member wish to discuss either of those information items? All right.
Maybe.
Does any board member have anything else they would like to report at this time?
2 things, real fast. But I can wait until after Ms. Campbell gets heard. If you want to, proper order.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, 'cause it's going to get kind of. So I emailed you guys the application, the group that applied for Melbourne High School renaming. And the lady who, Sam Lopez's daughter, who now controls the 3rd Street Bridge, made the, and United Third Bridge, sorry. Thank you for that. Has rescinded the Melbourne, right? I also attached the email of her saying exactly that and attached the actual board from the Florida Sunshine Laws Corporation papers showing the board that actually is in existence. With the idea that now I would like to come back in 2 weeks or the next board meeting to discuss rescinding it altogether as a board, being the fact that the applicants have rescinded their application. There's some kind of a confusion over who's actually continuing this thing in the process, but when the group who has put in the application has rescinded it and then also shown that they actually have the actual control to do so, I think that we can take the next couple of weeks to look it over and then come back as a board to intervene into that process. That's all. I don't need any action now. I just sent you the information. We don't need to talk about it. I just wanted to say that I would like to try to entertain something at the next board meeting.
Mr. Gibbs, is there any, the board hasn't ruled on the issue, so does the board need to take any action on the issue?
Yeah, it's not our stuff. It's not
Yeah,
our stuff.
it's not before the board right now, so the board hasn't voted. It's just with the community through the board's procedures.
Yeah.
And I haven't-
Yeah, but we're allowing an application process to go through our school system that the people who applied for it no longer want it to be in existence. It's got half of the city of Melbourne upside down, and it's continuing to move on. And it's just something that we as a school board should give direction to end, is my theory, what I would like to do.
The school board didn't give direction to start it. I mean,
It
they're
does-
they're following your procedures. If the person that wants it is saying, hey, we're done, just forget about it, and walks away, then it seems like it would be over by that on its own. I don't have the facts. I haven't seen any of these
Sure.
documents, so I don't.
If that's
I
the
can't speak
case,
to
then
it.
that's great. But in the event that it continues to go down, I would like to look at any processes we have to end that from continuing to go down. That's all. And I don't have to make a decision now. We don't even need to discuss it. We can talk about it at the next board meeting.
Ms. Campbell?
So just on that topic, just because I think this is important, because Mel High is right now on their schedule having their second meeting in the process, because they have to have 3 meetings over the 18-month period. They're having their, on Monday night of discussion, there's already people coming to talk about it. And as I've spoken to people, the problem is that there was word going around, I think you shared that with us a month or so ago, that, hey, they rescinded it, but there was no official word from the organization, so I'm glad you said we can take a look at the letter. But I believe that staff was working on the premise until they get official word that it has been rescinded. We have to continue walking out the process. So if there's some way, I would suggest that if there's some way for us to see the actual document, and I saw the letter, I didn't get a chance to look at my email all the way, but that, I mean, if we need to, we can cancel the meeting on Monday night. Certainly the community would do better without all the angst that this has caused, but I think we need to make sure that we have official withdrawal of the application, and rather than just someone saying, hey, they're withdrawing it, it needs to be something that's very clear, because even when I talked to the principal in the last month, he had not gotten that official word except from just by word of mouth.
I emailed all the documentation over a month ago.
Can I ask
so
a
I'm just bringing it
question?
back up.
I don't feel like it's our responsibility at this point in the procedure. So does staff have a question on this issue? Have they addressed this to Mr. Gibbs?
You guys, we don't have to make a decision right now. I was just bringing it up as a topic to entertain at the next board meeting. If something happens in between there, great. But I don't want us to make, I'll just be honest with you, there's a lot of animosity that's being created from this, and the ultimate goal of honoring somebody who's amazing is now being torn at. And I'm working with the diversity director to create another avenue for that. And it's just gotten a little bit out of control. And I just wanted to talk about it at the next meeting and see if there's an opportunity for us to end it. That's it. I mean, I'm tired of Melbourne people getting upset about it.
I get it. I just think we don't even have to talk about it or end it. If it dies, it dies. It doesn't even come before us.
It's not in our responsibility to make the decision right now.
We don't
so
have
there's no
to.
point to even talk about it.
So Mr. Susin, is there an official letter? I mean,
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
you guys haven't, I emailed it right before the board meeting because I was going to do it after the workshop, but we didn't have much time. And it was just on my list of things that I wanted to round back out. I noticed that some stuff was starting to pop on social media in my district about it again, and there's a lot of angst on it. So I just sent the letter. If we can follow up with Dr. Mullins, I didn't want to have a discussion on it. There might be reasons why, but when the application group that is in charge, that has control of it, statutorily removes the application, I think it should end.
That makes sense to me. I would think that that would be the next step. So Mr. Gibbs, is there anything, if there's a letter, is there anything we have to do?
He has to look at it for validity.
I haven't looked at anything, so I mean, the only thing I've had is a
I think it's important for Mr. Gibbs
conversation.
to review it based off of Dr. Sullivan's response to the last email.
So have you provided that letter to Mr. Gibbs as well?
I did it to everybody except for Gibbs. I'll send it to you in a second as soon as I can pop this open.
That would be great, thank you. And you had a second thing?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's going to dovetail into exactly what you wanted to do. We've been talking about and they were talking about the mask mandate, but Dr. Mullins kind of sent us a text saying, hey guys, we're going to reconvene some stuff, so I wanted to talk about what the direction was and the next steps as far as what our reopening process for next year and stuff like that is, but that's already being brought up by you, so I can go that route.
All right, anyone have anything else before we go to Ms. Campbell? All right, Ms. Campbell, mic is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Belford. So I'll just preface this with saying that, in my decision-making, pride, politics, many of the things that we get accused of on a regular basis on this particular issue don't play in. But I do try to look at all sides, and in doing that, and I try to play devil's advocate a lot. I don't like that phrase, but in other words, I make every side mad. So I just want to address a couple of things. My intention is not to make every side mad, but to talk as a board about where we go from here. I appreciate everybody who has sent us. There's been one study that everybody seems to send the same study, and I appreciate that. We have been sent many studies through the last year, and I've tried to take a look at as many of those as I could. As far as also blogs and videos and different things, because everybody has a different take. And honestly, with many things in the scientific community, you can find a study that's going to support just about any opinion that you start with. And I think everybody can probably recognize that maybe on an issue that you disagree with or agree with. I appreciate you guys all coming out. And I want to say, as a board, one of the things that I think we need to consider in the different groups that come out and present themselves to us is that one of the things I appreciate about the parents who've come tonight is they want to be in our schools. And so we start with that. Where is I think it was it Karen who wants everybody to be happy? There's our starting point, is we want our kids to be in Brevard Public Schools. Thank you. Thank you for I'm with you. And so I thought about that a couple weeks ago. It's like, here is what we are. We have parents who want to be in our schools. They are in our schools. They are for our schools. They want to stay. And so that's one of the things that we can come together on. I just, when it comes to the masks for this year, again, as a board, we have to look at everything. Everybody has their narrow vision of the things that are affecting them, but we have to look at all the perspectives. And one of the things that will make, as we move forward, and we don't know where we're going, and I don't speak for the whole board, but going forward, as the commissioner has said, for next year, that will make it easier to make masks optional or just recommended or whatever we want to do to remove our mandate, is that At that point, we have had the vaccine available. We have it more available. Everybody, by the time school starts around in August, everybody who wants a shot, except for those who are underage, because it's not available for them yet, but it might be over the summer. Everybody who wants a shot should be able to have it. The problem with doing some of that now, and my thought is that even our last group of employees that Ms. McDougall and I were at the clinic, they have not had their second shot. They won't have it until I think a week and a half, at least 2 weeks from now, and then it takes a couple of weeks. And so everybody's like, oh, we've got a shot. Well, not yet. The people who are the most concerned, and including our employees and the people who are working with our students, because we do have to take them into consideration as well, and also the public, because one of the concerns that we have had from the beginning is not just our students, and the people rightly come and state, the low infection rates and the low death rates and low hospitalization rates of our student age people. Yes, but we have to consider the families that they go home to as well. But again, as we move forward into the near future, we're going to have that where adults of all ages who are wanting to get the vaccine can get the vaccine. And if you look at the CDC guidance on, for example, quarantines, the CDC says, and I double-checked this after my conversation with you a couple weeks ago, that you don't have to quarantine once you've been fully vaccinated. And so the CDC recognizes the immunity of the people who are vaccinated. All right, so here's my goal. I'm kind of like with the governor. I want everybody who wants one to get one. I don't want them mandated, but everybody who wants one to get one. And by the time we get to school start, everybody who wants one will have one. The other thing that makes it very difficult to make this kind of change before the end of the year is that we have many families who have just after the beginning of the school year sometime, either, some came back on the first day, some came back in December, some came back all along the way. We've had families come back into our schools because e-learning wasn't working or because they developed a confidence in how we were handling the COVID situation this year, which has been very difficult. After, let's just say, our last round of employees that we provided shots or helped coordinate that shots for, they get their vaccine, wait 2 weeks, so we've got 2 or 3 weeks of school left. To make that, to me, it's a bait and switch and say, okay, we've allowed you to come in our school because you feel comfortable. You may not have the immunity yet, but we're going to change it now and make it optional. And so we've got families who are going to have to make the decision, okay, now I've got all these people around me who aren't wearing, around my child who aren't wearing masks, or teachers who haven't had the shot yet or aren't fully immune. And we're going to make that, so we're having a bait and switch here in the last couple of weeks of school. So I am not comfortable with making that change before the end of the school year. I'm just going to, like I said, there we go, I just made a bunch of people mad. But I will say this moving forward, once we get to the next school year, a couple of things that are changing that are going to make, honestly, the influence of our Department of Health, who I so appreciate. I don't want anything I'm about to say to be down on them, but it's going to decrease the influence of our Department of Health. While we were sitting in the workshop, I'm just giving an example, got a notification on my phone from Sam's Club, of all things, notifying me about the do-it-your-own COVID test at home. And my mom sent a family group text the other day with a screenshot of the very same test, which, by the way, my sister-in-law, who works in a long-term care facility, said is the exact same test that she has to get tested with every 2 weeks. Once people get where they're going to Sam's and buying the test, the Department of Health is not going to have accurate records because people are, assuming you get a positive test. Are you going to call the Department of Health and let them know that you tested positive? Is the quarantine process? Eventually, all of that's is going to lessen and go away, and it may go away as the CDC recommends it. It may go away as the Department of Health for the state of Florida lessens it. But that role is absolutely going to change. And honestly, I think it's going to change right now. If you can go to Sam's right now and buy your own COVID test, then the Department of Health kind of gets removed from that loop. And so as we move forward, I even think, and I know Dr. Mullins, we're having those conversations now with staff, and I don't know what we need to do to talk about this summer, but even when we get to the summer, most of our summer programs are optional. I'd like for us to consider making those changes for our summer programs, but to do it before the end of the school year when everybody's here, and like I said, I'm not in favor of a bait and switch type thing that we would have to do to remove the mask mandate before the end of the school year, especially when so many people who want to be immune are not immune yet. But again, I just think we need to consider as a board the lessened influence of our Department of Health, who we have leaned on for this whole entire year, and they have been so wonderful to work with us. But that is changing. Times are changing, and their role is going to change as well, I foresee, because of things like the do-it-yourself tests and other things. So I just wanted to take that in consideration as we move forward making those decisions. They've been great partners, but like I said, it behooves us to consider as we move forward that those decisions can be made a little differently than they were for this school year.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Mr. Susan, you look ready to talk?
Yeah. Thank you for that, overview. And I sent you an email today thanking you for all the work you've done with the COVID numbers. You've been consistent, and you have provided that, and to take that on as a task is pretty big. And I wanted to say thank you for that. You've been monitoring it and staying on top of it. You probably know more about the COVID cases in our area than anybody else, and I wanted to say thank you for that. My concern was, last time we did this, it was the pandemic, we were running behind and everything else, and we were kind of late into the game compared to some of the other school districts with what our plan was going to be moving forward. What I'd like to do is just talk about, okay, when are we going to reconvene, make sure that the topics that we have on top of there, because not only the mask mandate, and I appreciate everybody that came out tonight, and my sentiments with you are following along the same lines, but we also have athletics. Do we allow the kids outside of the counties, or are we going to let them go outside the states? You have the emergency order that Dr. Mullins had, that in case the three of us, passed away, that he could control and all that other stuff. There's just a ton of stuff we got to get through. So that's all. So I didn't know. I was going to ask Dr. Mullins. He had mentioned kind of we were going to get together. We were going to start this process. We're going to reconvene the DOH and all the groups. Just wanted to sort of make that known to everybody, and then let them know that there's a timetable and that there's a meeting coming. So, Dr. Mullins, did you have any more that you want to talk about on that, or?
We have not begun to plan for next year in terms of COVID protocols, that sort of thing. We have them in place, so we are prepared to do that. We are focusing right now on providing academic summer opportunities for our students in response to learning gaps and so on for next year. And we are building a school year next year already. So the board, to Mr. Susan's point, there is board policy that need to be addressed for the mask mandate, as well as some of the other policies. And if that's the direction of the board, we can certainly begin that process. But in the end, it's a board decision. So,
And thank you, Dr. Mullins. And then one of the main reasons that I was starting to try to push it a little bit is there's a lot of people making decisions on what they're going to do. We now know that the state has the law that says that they're going to start giving out some of that, some of those vouchers. And I think that we need to sort of give direction on what we're going to do while these people are trying to make their applications going around. So what I would like to do is just figure out, and we don't have to do it now, Dr. Mullins, but if there's an urgency of the board to come and reconvene and start working on that, because it'll probably take us 2 or 3 meetings, then we could give Dr. Mullins direction that we want to push that and move forward. I did not want to get to a point where we were in July trying to still discuss it. That's all for August dates.
I've had several emails along the same lines, like, what's the plan for next year? My response to them has been, and I think this goes along with what Dr. Mullins shared with us a couple weeks ago when he did the presentation, is that the reopening plan that we sat through all those hours, marathon meetings this summer, was specifically for the year 2020, 2021. And so technically, if we want to have a school year, as Dr. Mullins shared a couple weeks ago, we're returning to normal, right? We're not doing e-learning. We're not athletics. From what he presented, we're going back to our usual programming. If we don't do anything, then the reopening plan ends at the end of the school year, or at June 30th. I don't know, at the end of our fiscal year. I'm not really sure when it would end. But so I don't know that unless we want to go back and incorporate some of those things again for this coming year, I don't know that we have to have workshops and development and all that for it to just revert back. Does that make sense?
I would argue that we need to have conversations over. We can't just announce to the public that we're going to go back to normal without at least a discussion as to what that looks like. There's a lot of things that have changed. There's a lot of moving parts. There's more Brevard virtual. There's a lot of stuff that we need to discuss and what that looks like and how we move forward. If you were to make an announcement like that, Dr. Mullins, and I would hope that the board would get together to discuss moving forward, not just make an announcement. I don't know. Does that make sense to you? I mean, I just can't imagine that we would just all of a sudden in some meeting just say, we're going back to normal, which is
That's what he just said 2 weeks ago.
that we're going back to normal? That we're going to go back to normal? No masks, no nothing,
No,
no?
the mask is a separate thing from your opening plan because it has a policy.
Right.
And we will need to make that announcement. So if you want to have workshop discussion around masks, but everything else as far as, like we're not doing hybrid and whatever, I think that was what the presentation was about.
Okay, so we didn't have a conversation as a board over whether we were moving forward with block or 7 period. We didn't talk about going back to hybrid or not. We haven't talked about what a lot of the stuff looks like. I would like to discuss it in a group over what that looks like for next year so that our people out in the community would know what's going to happen. Like, I think that one of the things that we do at BPS is we just assume everybody's looking. I'm getting emails from all over the spectrum over what we're doing. And if you just say that we're going back to normal without discussion and going back and forth in communication, we end up in a situation where people are still a little bit confused. So I would like to move forward with having that kind of a discussion and do it prior to June 15th.
Can I just jump in real quick? In regards to block scheduling and hybrid, I feel like that was addressed by Dr. Mullins. I feel like there was a discussion about it. If it's something that you think we need to bring up in a different way so people are aware of it, absolutely. If you feel like you're getting emails about it for the confusion, but I thought that was put out there already as a finalized thing. When it comes to anything else specific in terms of mitigating COVID, I think it's unrealistic to pretend to have a conversation 3 months in advance. I'm with you. It doesn't need to be last minute like it was when we came back in August because of the situation that we had, but you can't have a conversation 3 months out when, the last discussion that Dr. Mullins had with the Department of Health, the huge percentage of citizens of Brevard County that were actually vaccinated over the age of 65 was a really positive thing. We have no idea what that'll look like for a month from now. It might be even more incredible of a number. So I don't think you can really talk about that stuff. I do want to say I want to do a point of clarification real quick. Ms. Campbell brought up those self-tests. Those are not like self-tests that can diagnose positive or negative in your home. Those are collection kits that get mailed away. And so I'm pretty sure there's probably, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure there's probably a requirement that it has to get reported to the Department of Health if it's a positive test from that lab. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you.
So in roughly about a week and a half, we're 3 months away from the opening of the next school year. So when I say that, June 15th is only like 55 days from the day we open the schools. And when you sit there and you talk about parents who have to make decisions, I mean, the Department of Education has already said that we are not going to come back and have masks. They have already said that. There is no conversation over whether next year is going to be or not. I mean, I don't know. It seems like common sense, but what I'm saying is that we are very close to having a lot of people that need to know a lot of things about the school district and what we're going to be doing. And, I think we have to have a meeting to discuss it. And 3 months out, I hear you, but like literally we're 3 months from the start of the school year next year in about 10 or 15 days. So I think there's some urgency to sort of talk about these things and get a plan. I know a lot of people that are making decisions on whether they're going to go private school, e-learning, if they're going to go Brevard virtual or they're going to go Brevard or Florida virtual. There's just a lot of stuff. And hearing us in a concrete plan, this is how we're moving forward, gives them the direction. I have people that are planning out what they're going to do right now for next year, and they want to know. And we should start thinking about it. I mean,
I'm just confused what you need clarification on. Is it how school is going to be accessed? Because we already talked about we're going to not do hybrid. We already talked about we're going to do 7 periods, not block scheduling. What is it the athletics piece? Like, I just want to know what are we needing to hash out still and make clear?
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is inappropriate for the audience to be yelling out at the board. So I understand the frustration and I understand you wanting answers, but I can't have the back and forth like that because it interferes with our ability to make progress. So we hear you, we understand your frustration. Give us an opportunity to talk through it and figure out a plan, okay?
We have emergency orders that we put into place. We have, I mean, you have athletics, you have a million things that the school district is doing right now that are going to change next year. And even if it is to return to normal, we should have a discussion in the public over what that looks like so that people can make their decision. That's it. And we can't wait until July 15th to announce that we're going back to normal. That's my point. We should do it as early as possible and have a discussion over it.
So is there, any objection to us scheduling a workshop with the Department of Health within the next month or so for discussion on mitigation strategies?
Can we add in hospitals and all those groups that were there before for solidification, the same team that we put together? Would you guys object to that? Okay. I mean, it would just give us the overall.
So I don't know that we can necessarily put if we're going to, the Department of Health has been great about dropping whatever they're doing and being here for our discussions. If we are going to invite the rest of the folks to come back as well, I think we need to be clear, are we requiring the entire panel? Because making all of their schedules mesh might take longer than the timeline that you're looking at, Mr. Susan. So I just want to make sure that we're giving clear expectation for Dr. Mullins.
Absolutely. I would venture to say that those individuals that are on those hospital boards would be able to make it. The DOH is going to be the one that we have to work with, but if they can just send one of their representatives, I don't think if we met in the evenings like we were doing, or we can find that schedule within the next 30 days. If we can just figure out a way to get there before June 1st, I think that they'll do that. I mean, I know these guys move their schedules 3 weeks out.
So I just want to clarify, your request is a meeting prior to June 1st with whoever can be there.
Or
within
right
that timeframe.
after school ends, because we're running up on the, right? So we're running up on the last day of school. So somewhere between June 1st and June 30, so that we can actually meet and discuss all of the things that we need to discuss.
So the timeline is now June 30 for the meeting to
June
convene
1st to
with-
June 15th, I'm sorry. I apologize.
So June 15th is now the timeline that you're defining for
I just
everyone to come
asked
through.
that earlier to meet by June 15th to give direction to everybody.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just want to make sure, because there's been so much discussion, I just want to make sure that Dr. Mullins has clear expectations, so.
If we give the hospital boards, the DOH, and everybody 6 weeks to come to a meeting, I think they'll get here. I think that the public deserves to know what we're going to do, and whatever that is, we discuss it in the open, in the public, and let everybody know.
And I'm not opposing your
Yeah.
request or
No,
your
no,
recommendation.
I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to reiterate because we keep asking the same questions. So.
I just want to make sure that Dr. Mullins.
I have a question for clarification's sake, but because I feel like this makes it sound like our staff and Dr. Mullins wouldn't have had any intention to have conversations with the Department of Health and the medical staff that would be here that you're inviting. So I just want to throw it out there. What was the timeline that you had in place for you and your staff to have this done? Because I know very well that you've had continuous conversations with them, and that would have been your intention all along. I don't want it to be the perception of the public that BPS was never going to have this meeting in the first place prior to school opening in August.
We met with the DOH formally last week by conference call, particularly in light of the letter from the Commissioner of Education. What was their feedback and current CDC guidelines for the mitigation strategy of masks. Mrs. Belford participated in that discussion. The DOH said that they did not or would not at this time recommend rescinding the mask mandate in our schools. They said right now it's too early to make any decisions in terms of what's next, because they shared that the vaccination progress had, my word, somewhat stalled. There seemed to be vaccination hesitancy. So they were reluctant to make any recommendation beyond what our conversation was last week. So we continue to have a conversation with them. We have been operating that the school year includes through June 30. So that has been our timeline, that we will continue the strategies we have in place through June 30. I believe it was you, Mrs. Jenkins, who said, or maybe it was Mrs. Campbell, we recognize that the reopening plan for the school year ends June 30 because that's what we presented to the community. And as we prepare, what I presented 2 weeks ago was the preparations we can make now for next school year with the knowledge that we have at that point. So quite honestly, it's a week-to-week process of evaluating what do we know at that time. And we did, as you indicated, share where we are for next school year at this time. I suspect as we get into June, we would have requested a formal meeting with the DOH for the board to make the decision, is the mask mandate going to continue or would it be rescinded, which, again, requires board decision. So, I see Miss Moore came out. She is our resident Department of Health liaison extraordinaire. Did I miss anything that you would add to that discussion? I would suggest that June 15th, we can work within that timeline. I don't see any reason why not. I just can't assure that those individuals will be able to provide any more guidance than what we've received at that time.
No, the only thing I would add is that 2 days, one or 2 days prior to that conversation, Dr. Theddy and I were over at the DOH and we were talking about all of what next year might look like, what they were thinking for quarantines, what the interaction between BPS and DOH might look like. Excuse me. At this point, their reaction was, we can't tell you. We can make recommendations based on today. So I think that kind of followed up with a conversation 2 days later. But to your point, we're going to have these ongoing conversations. We meet every day at 4, and we'll continue to formally meet with them, as we move through the rest of the school year.
I just want to say, so Mr. Susin, I'm with you. I think it's really important to have a date out there so people know that conversation's coming. I just had to put that out there just because I don't want the public to think that BPS never had a plan to have this meeting in the first place. So I think it's smart to lock down a date. I'm totally with you on that. But I just thought it was really important for the public to be reminded that, our staff is talking to the DOH almost every single day at 4 o'clock. They have a meeting with the Department of Health. And I also don't want to push a meeting sooner than the district and the DOH kind of had a conversation about, because that would be frustrating to the public too, to have yet another meeting where it's kind of a meeting where it's all the same information again, and it's nothing new and they can't predict or it's too soon. I think that would be a waste of everybody's time as well too. So I just wanted to clarify what that timeline was.
No, I appreciate that, and if everybody remembers at the beginning of the conversation, I said that Dr. Mullins had already started the process and there was no way that staff wasn't moving on this. I just wanted to bring it up in the public to get a date set. Just as Ms. Moore even mentioned, how are we going to be quarantining? How is the process going to go? What is the distance between the 6 to 3 to 0 feet? The meeting requirements, there are 1,000 things that we need to get through inside of that meeting. And I don't know how much different it would be within a 2-week period or a 3-week period. And if you look at June 15th as a date, if you pushed it and said, wow, we'll just wait a couple of weeks and we'll wait, we're literally making a major decision for people to change their livelihoods and their decisions within a 3-week period after that. And we start getting too close. And I wanted to try to avoid that and try to get something on there. The other thing is that if they're meeting with the DOH every day, the DOH probably isn't going to be the issue. I would really want to have those hospital experts in there too, because one of the things is DOH is great, but they're not the deciding factor for me in what I'm going to end up doing with my vote towards the reopening plan. They're part of the pie of what we look at. So I would like to have those hospitals in there and the individuals that were there last time. That's it.
Could I make a suggestion? Because, as we've talked about, I think some of the confusion here is that you mentioned block schedule and e-learning or whatever. I think you mentioned e-learning. I know you mentioned block schedule. I just don't want there to be a sense of panic going out across our teacher base in particular, who we just said a couple weeks ago after Mullins announced, we're not planning on doing e-learning next year, and now there's a hesitation by the board. Oh, maybe we are. We have to talk about it first. So if there's, I just want that. I mean, if that's part of it. You want to discuss that after he's made that announcement. I think we need to be clear about that, because otherwise we are about to send shockwaves of panic across teachers who thought we were done. They can make it to across the finish line in June 3rd, and we don't have to do hybrid and or e-learning anymore. So we need to be clear about that, because that's one of the things that parents are waiting to make their decision on. I know mask is a big thing, so and that can be a conversation anytime unrelated to reopening plan, because we have a separate policy that determines that. But what I would recommend, if we're going to have this conversation, is that we as board members need to go through the reopening plan from this current year and see, is there something we want to hold on to? Because otherwise it all goes away, except for maybe we're running the air conditioning more or whatever. I mean, but if there's something that is in the reopening plan that's different from how we normally do school, that we as a board want to continue, let's highlight those, because I don't think we need to go through the whole thing if some things are just going to revert back to normal. It seems like that, you've said thousands of things. There were thousands of things in there, but I don't think we need to talk about every single thing if some of them are just going to go away at the end of the year. So it seems like it would be a better use of our time and energy to pull out the things that we want to discuss that we would want to continue into 21, 22.
So thank you for that. In no way did I indicate that we were going to reverse the decision on the block scheduling or the hybrid. I was really upset about the hybrid moving forward anyway, and I wanted to call for the end of it. And that, I said that earlier, that wasn't part of this. There's just literally a ton of stuff that we need to discuss. And if we don't do it in the public, then they ask the question. So if they say, are we going to quarantine next year if a child has COVID? Okay, what does that look like? And are we going to do athletics? Even though we know we're going back to normal, they need to hear that. Our public needs to hear that this is what's happening, because if they don't, then they just don't know. And that's not a fair thing for them to do. So I understand where you're saying that we should just pick and choose and all that stuff. I would like to just run through it and say, in the public, this is what's happening. Kind of like Dr. Mullins brought that whole thing, and he said, this is what's going to happen. He can bring forward the changes and say, this is how it's going to change, and this is what it's looking like next year. We owe our public that. That's all.
I'm just uncomfortable with the perception that this conversation was never going to happen in the first place. I think that was always the intention to be happening. So if it makes you more comfortable to pick a date and put it out there, but I think it's very clear that this was a conversation and presentation that was going to happen to the public prior to the school opening.
And I said that. I mean, I said Dr. Mullins was moving forward with it. I said I just wanted to get a date down, and I didn't want to push it later into the thing.
I just want to make it clear to the public, because it sounds like it may not have been happening.
No, I mean, I said that over and over again. I said Dr. Mullins moved forward. He had sent out a text and everything else. So that's all. So if we can do that, if everybody's okay with before June 15th or something like that, then we should be good.
Dr. Mullins, are you clear on the request?
Yes, I will work with Pam to identify a date before June 15th to bring together the health representatives that we met with several months ago, to include the Department of Health, to discuss the health mitigation strategies in consideration of next school year. Did I get that correct?
Perfect.
And I had motioned to indicate, I feel necessary to emphasize the hybrid learning model one more time, because there was a lot of communication after the last meeting, and I don't want we have not, Board, you don't have before you to rescind hybrid learning for next year, because we've not received permission from the Department of Education to even consider hybrid learning next year. The only reason we could do e-learning is because the DOA, the Department of Education, gave us permission to and allow it to count for credit, and two, that they would fully fund it. And that executive order is only through the end of this school year. So right now, I just want to emphasize, e-learning is not an option for us to consider for next year, hence why I felt comfortable saying that. Given the tone of the legislature and the DOE at this time, I think it's a reasonable expectation right now to assume that that is not going to change. If the world and environment around us does a very drastic change between now and next school year, is it possible that the DOE would reinstate an emergency order for e-learning? Maybe. So that's why we are planning ahead for a non-hybrid school year on our traditional schedule for next year. So I want to emphasize that and none of this conversation suggests that there could be reconsideration of that. Ms. Moore, did you want to?
Yeah, I just want to, the last time we got the whole group together, one of the things that we did do is send them 5 very concrete questions that we were going to ask, and they were able to provide some information, even if they weren't able to attend, and even if we didn't get around to that conversation. And so I didn't know if that was something that you wanted to discuss here as a group, what we were going to ask them, or if you wanted us to submit that to you.
I had an idea. Why don't we just take the current plan and submit it to them, and then that way that they know what they can and can't, what they would like to continue and why, and just, hey, the plan's up for discussion. If we go out and start asking everybody for their input and everything else, then we end up in a situation where we're taking in all of those other opinions. I would like to meet as a board with the DOH and those people and discuss the current reopening plan, or the plan that we have, and then what reopening would be like for next year. Because if we start putting out...
Yeah, I think Ms. Moore is just suggesting we send the questions to the panel
Yes.
before the meeting so that they know what the questions are the board would like to have discussion about, not going out to the community again necessarily.
And
Because that's what we did. It just took a little while, that's all. Sorry about the miscommunication.
And I would suggest that there are some things not in the reopening plan that we probably need to have discussion around, like the quarantine protocol. The quarantine protocol, I don't believe was laid out in our reopening plan, but if it was laid out in our reopening plan, it has since been amended
A little bit.
based on guidance from the CDC and the Department of Health, and my understanding will be amended further with the recommendation that people who are fully vaccinated not need to quarantine. So I think there is likely to be conversation around that in any event, right? And so perhaps providing guidance would be
Yeah,
beneficial.
there was two things, and I didn't even think about it when I was up here earlier. There were 2 things that modified that quarantine. One is they have already given us guidelines for if you are fully vaccinated, but they've also given us guidelines if we stop the mitigation strategy of using face masks.
Right.
Because that would take our quarantine recommendation from 10 days to 14 days.
Right.
Back to the original based on CDC guidelines. So, yeah, there's some changes that have to happen there, absolutely. But it was originally part of the return to school plan.
And all of those things are things that the public could learn about, and they could understand that the reason that these things are the way they are is because of this. It's good.
So I don't know if we answered your requests, Ms. Moore. Would you like for me to request that each board member send you 5 specific questions to the reopening plan that you could share with our experts?
That would be wonderful if you wanted to do that, and I can collate them because I imagine many of you are going to have the same question. I imagine Tammy's going to be working to set up the meeting, but I can get them together, put similar ones together, and then she could format it and send it to
Let
to
me
our team of
suggest that the
advisors.
board use, if you would just email it to Pam, she'll collect the questions and she'll collate them for you, Ms. Moore.
Thank you.
All right, is there anything else before we call it a day?
Well, did we come up with a date though? Because honestly, like that was really important to Mr. Susan, and I feel like we kind of flew by that.
Can't come up with a date till we know what everybody's schedules are.
When they're coming.
We
Okay.
just got a time certain to
Something.
make sure that our public can make a decision
Okay.
within.
I just wanted to say that one more time for the public to hear.
Anything else? All right, hearing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Hey, Jenkins, if you